Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Tech Gamers World. In this video, I'm going to take you through the step-by-step process to take a Boeing 747 from cold and dark to ready to fly in Microsoft Flight Simulator. So stay tuned, we'll be right back. Let's do this. Okay everyone, welcome back. So here we are in Microsoft Flight Simulator. This is being played on a Microsoft Xbox Series X. So we are inside a Boeing 747 today. That is what they call cold and dark. Now cold and dark basically means that this plane is entirely turned off and is not yet ready to fly. So we need to get this airplane ready to fly by powering it up. Now, in Microsoft Flight Simulator, you have a couple of choices when it comes to starting out in your aircraft of choice. You can A, start out at a gate. The plane will be powered off and cold and dark. You can start out in a parking area, such as what I'm in right now at Morristown Municipal Airport in northern New Jersey. The plane will be cold and dark. Or you can start out on the runway. The plane will be powered on and immediately ready to fly. So depending on what your preference is and how real you like your flight simulator experience to be, you can do any one of those choices. I use them all. And in this video, I'm just going to show you how to start up a Boeing 747 jet, which it's actually not that difficult. So starting up a plane is a very methodical process. There are checklists to follow and certain buttons, switches. Everything has to be done in a precise order to ensure the plane is safely ready to fly. This goes in the virtual world and the real world. So let's get that started. Now, a Boeing 747 is one of the larger planes in Microsoft Flight Simulator, and as such, takes a lot to start it up. So there's no way I, as an amateur flyer, can possibly remember all the steps and where all the switches and knobs are in this amazing aircraft. So Microsoft Flight Simulator has an easy process for that. If you bring up the menu and go up to checklists here, we are provided with a nice checklist to use for everything from power to pre-flight, before starting engines, before taxi, before takeoff, and so on, all the way through landing and shutdown. So we need to focus on the first 4 or 5 checklists to get this particular plane started up. And again, depending on which plane you're flying in, this could be entirely different. So let's go ahead here and get it started. So we're going to start with power first. I'm going to go ahead here and move this off to the side. So the first thing we need to do is turn on the battery switch. So to do that, we need to look up at the ceiling here and find the battery switch. So that is right here. We're going to toggle the cover open, switch the battery to on. Now, I'll show you how to find the battery switch in particular, say you don't know how. On your checklist, you have this nice handy little feature here on the right. If you click this, it will show you the battery is flashing. Now I know it changed the angle on me there. It's going to do that a lot when you do that, but you get the point. It basically will show you the buttons that you need to flip. So let's go ahead now and do the next one. So we're going to do the standby power selector. So there it is. There, we need to have that set to auto. So let's go ahead here and look up and get this power selector set to auto. So we're going to click on it and move it to auto. So that's good. So we can go ahead here and check off the first 2 items. Now the hydraulic demand pump, we need to go ahead here and locate. So there they are. So let's go ahead here and move the checklist around. So we need to make sure the hydraulic demand pumps are set to off, which they all are. All right, so we can go ahead and tick that item. Windshield wiper selection off, so just to show you where the windshield wipers are. They are right there, and it is set to off. Landing gear. We know the landing gear is down, otherwise we'd have a pretty considerable problem. So I'm going to go ahead and tick that. External power, so on if available. So let's just assume that external power is available. So external power position is currently off. Let's set it to on. Now in a airport like this, there is no external power, so you're not going to get the APU on, the external power on. But that's basically how you would just do it. And what would happen is when it switches on, you would see it say on it. So we'll go ahead and tick that item. Now we've completed the first checklist. So let's move on to pre-flight. So IRS selectors, we need to go ahead and locate these. There they are. These need to be set to nav. So let's click on inertial reference systems and move it to nav. And do the same for this one and this one. So let's go ahead and tick that item. Done. Set IRS position. So we need to make sure this is set to set. So let's go ahead here and select this button. Display initialization page. So there's only one choice there. So that is set. So as you can see, it is initializing. There's where you would plug in certain parameters. So let's move on to bus tie switches. These need to be set to auto, which they already are. You can see them all say auto, 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 auto. Generator control switches. These 4 need to be set to on, which they already are. 1, 2, 3, 4. Excellent. So we'll go ahead now and tick these items off. APU selector. There is the APU selector up here. We'll go ahead and set this to start, which then will switch back to on. So we are good there. Now we have to wait. So let's go ahead here and realign our view. So we're going to go to the APU gen switches now. So when they'll say on when avail is lit. So in a minute here, they're gonna say avail up and down. So you may notice that I'm looking all over the place here. Unfortunately, Microsoft Flight Simulator made changes to the free look, and it's not so good. They made it so that when you exit the free look, you have to revert back to your primary look. Haven't really been able to fix that yet. So there we go. APU generators switches are on. Hydraulic demand pumps are off. Should be off, so let's verify. They are all off. Engine hydraulic pumps are on. Excellent. Emergency lights. We want to verify that the guard is closed, which it is open. So let's go ahead here and switch that to closed. Good. So let's go ahead and tick down. You don't need to tick your items if you're still learning. Ticking items is just a good way to remember here what you're doing. Fuel crossfeed switches on. So as you can see, we can tell that they are on because the set fuel crossfeed 1 position is set to open. So I can show you what the other options are. There's close or open. So basically on also means open depending on what switch you're using. So they really shouldn't call it on. They really should say open or closed. So we're going to go ahead here and tick that item. Moving on to the fuel pumps. Should be off now. All fuel pumps are off. That is good. So we can go ahead and tick that item. Anti-ice should be set to auto. So we're going to go ahead here and make sure that these 5 switches are on auto or on. So auto. So you'll use your right the right trigger here, thumbstick, to control these switches, you have to look at the switch. It's either going to be up or down or left and right. So anti-icing is very important if you're flying in winter, and if you forget to turn these on, you could have a little bit of a problem, depending on how realistic you're playing. Same thing for window heat switches. So I'll show you where those two are. They are right there. Right now they are in the off position, so we'll switch them to on, even though it's not winter, but just for sake of consistency. Windshield wiper selector switch is off, which we're going to leave them off. You would turn these on if it is raining. Intermittent low and high, sort of like a car. Yaw damper switches, these are very important. I gotta go ahead and move the checklist out of the way here. So yaw damper switches should be set to on, which they are. Excellent. So let's go ahead and check off this and this. Passenger temp select. We're going to make sure that's set to auto, which it is. Flight temperature select, set to auto, which it is. So we'll go ahead and check those two off. Cargo temperature, set to auto, which it is. Trim air switches, set to on, which they are. Recirculation switches, set to on, which they are. PAX switches are currently off, so we need to switch on PAX switch 1, 2, and 3. Starting to hear some airflow now. Isolation valve switches are set to on, open, so that basically means on. So let's go ahead and tick that one. APU bleed air switch. This is going to be in the off position right now. Oh, no, actually, it's on already. Good. So let's tick that one. Engine bleed air switches are off. So let's go ahead and turn on all 4 of these. Now, if you want to be technical, you should start right to left. So in this case, engine 4, 3, 2, 1, but it's a video game, so it really doesn't matter. Navigation lights are off, so we're going to go ahead here and flip those on. Logo lights are off, we'll flip those on. So let's go ahead here and tick this one, tick this one. Now it's going to move us to flight director, which is on the right underneath the window here. So flight director is, let me make sure I'm in the right. There it is. So flight director is off. So we'll flip that on. Excellent. Auto throttle. So we need to go ahead and arm the auto throttle. Armed. I extended that. Let me just drag this down a little bit here so we can see the rest. Alright. Actually, I'll leave that. You can see it playing on an Xbox. It's not the best without a keyboard and mouse, which you can also, connect to it if you wanted to. So bank limit selector. We're going to make sure this is set to auto. So in this case, it's set to 25%. We'll bring it down to auto. Again, depending on what you're comfortable with, you may not necessarily use that. Auto disengage bar is up, which it is. Landing gear is down. Auto brake selector is set, needs to be set for RTO. Disarm to RTO, there we are. Parking brake. Let's see what the parking brake is. It should be already set. It is set. Speed brake is going to be off. Or on, I'm sorry. So let's see here what our options are. Speed brakes. Speed brake is down, so there we go. Alright. Thrust levers all set to idle. You can verify that by moving your throttle up and down on the controller or your flight stick. So let's go ahead and set that. Flaps are up. Our flaps are at 0%. Fuel cutoff switches are set to cut off. So they are set to close. Good. Alright. Seatbelt selector we should be setting to on. At this point, we'd want passengers to buckle their seatbelts. So we've done that. TCAS ATC selector. I'm going to put this in standby here. So we are going to start to hear some air traffic control now. I will do my best to talk over it. So it is in standby. You may or may not hear some air traffic control depending on what airport you're at. So before starting engine, hydraulic demand pump auto. So let's go up here. So if you remember these from before, we need to now set these to auto. So let's move the checklist out of the way here. And we'll go ahead and set this to auto. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we'll go ahead and tick that off. Fuel pumps. Time to turn on the fuel pumps. They should already be on, I believe. Let's go ahead here and verify. Okay, fuel pumps are not yet on. So we need to turn on all of these fuel pumps. So again, normally you would go right to left, just like this, but you don't have to get that detailed. This is just a video game. We'll do all the same thing. Fuel pumps are all on. Beacon. We'll make sure that the beacons are set to both. So beacon light position on. There we go. All right. So let's tick that item. This is where we may start hearing some air traffic control noise here. So we're going to set the air TCAS ATC selector, so the transponder, to XPDR, which there should be one of these here. I guess they meant to say XPNDR. So again, not perfect in a flight simulator here. Now the time we've all been waiting for. It's actually time to start these engines. So pack switches. Let's go up to pack switches here. And make sure that these are set for off. So let's set these off. 1, 2, 3 are off. Now, the next part of this is it says engine 4 start switch. So now is the time to get these engines started. So what they want you to do is to pull engine 4 start switch, then do engine 4 fuel control. Now, instead of looking up, down, here's what I recommend you do. Start up engine 4, pull the starter engine, 3, 2, 1. Do all 4 of them. Tick that item. Then look to the next one, the engine 4 fuel control switches. So if you just do all 4 of these, starting right to left, we're going to start to see that the engines are spinning up. And if you look down in the bottom left here on the screen, you can see engines 4, 3, 2, and 1 are all starting up. And if you take a look over there on the ECACS screen, which is the one in the center, you can see that the engines are starting up. So we are looking good here. So engines will consider the fuel switch is done. engines 1, 2, and 3 are done, and ECACs, engines are running. So before we taxi, we've got to do a couple of things here. So we need to take the APU selector, switch it to off. So that is right up here, APU starter. We'll switch that to off. Pack switches, and if you forget where they are, the 3 over here. We'll set these 3 back to on. We'll go ahead and mark that as complete. Flaps set for takeoffs. So you would set your flaps based on what you want for takeoffs, usually 10, 15 degrees, whatever you need them set for. So that's pretty simple to do there. You don't actually have to do that right now. You can do that when you get to the runway if you want. Or alternatively, you can do it not at all, depending on your takeoff weight, conditions, weather, etc. Taxi light is the last and final step here. So we're going to go ahead and turn on the taxi lights. And the taxi lights are on. And then, so the next one would be before takeoff, which you would do right when you are waiting, holding short of the runway, after you've gotten your air traffic control clearances for takeoff, etc. So that is it. We have gotten this Boeing 747 from cold and dark to ready to fly in Microsoft Flight Simulator. It's pretty cool. I am super excited to get up in the air and fly this amazing plane. It is so much fun to fly. If anyone needs any help or has any questions about starting up any of the aircrafts in Microsoft Flight Simulator, including the helicopters, please drop a comment down below and I will do my best to help you out. And as always, if you could click that like button and subscribe to my YouTube channel, that would be totally awesome. Keep on gaming, keep on flying, and I will see you around. Have a great day, everybody.